Now, one of the ways they're justifying all the harm they're doing to us is to claim America is racist and deserves to be punished. Is that true? Is America racist or just Democrats? That's a question we attempt to answer in tonight's preamble. Since the election of Barack Hussein Obama, race relations in the United States have been in the proverbial toilet. I, as your liberty-loving Latino, can attest that anytime I have suffered racism or bigotry, a liberal Democrat was on the other end. Through CRT, the 1619 Project, and allies at the Disney Corporation, leftists have been trying to institutionalize racism against whites. CNN reports that the Democrats have hopped on the hate whitey bandwagon.
Iowa and New Hampshire could, well, soon lose their status as the first states to have their say in the primary and caucus calendar. Numerous members of the Democratic National Committee's Rules and Bylaws Committee have expressed their support for a proposal that would completely restructure the party's current nominating process in favor of a new format that would prioritize states with more diverse battlegrounds in the early nominating contests, meaning the largely white states of Iowa and New Hampshire would move down later in the calendar.
That's right. The Democrats hate you white people, and they're not afraid to let you know it. That's why they want to move early primaries out of your lily white states. Now, how do they justify this hatred of white people? Well, that's easy. They just make stuff up. Here's Camilla Harris. That's the Stevie Wonder pronunciation, so we know it's not racist. Here she is justifying the Democrats' hatred of whites by alleging that lynching of black people is still going on, and it's a problem the federal government must solve.
Lynching is and has always been a hate crime. And to make clear that the federal government may now prosecute these crimes as such. Lynching is not a relic of the past.
Wait, lynching is not a relic of the past. That sounded kind of fishy to us, so we thought we'd do some digging and check out that claim. I know it was probably a fool's errand because, well, you know, Democrats would never lie. Just ask the so-called fact checkers of the New York Times, they'll tell you. Here's what the Salcedo Show found. The last documented lynching in America, one lynching, was in 1981. That was over 4 decades ago, according to the Tuskegee Institute. Their data shows the last lynching took place in 1955, over 67 years ago. By any definition, the past, far in the past. So yes, lynching is indeed a relic of the past, contrary to what Biden's failed border czar said. But those of you out there who have relished the new race wars reignited by Democrats, you can rest easy tonight. The Speaker of the House and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are busy orchestrating a high-tech lynching of a black man sitting on the Supreme Court.
Do you agree with members of your caucus who are saying that Clarence Thomas should resign?
I don't think he should have ever been appointed, so let me take it back to there.
That's right. Pelosi and her socialist ward are calling to remove Justice Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court. In fact, as you just heard, Nancy Pelosi doesn't believe the black man should have ever been on the high court to begin with. Take it from me, my black and brown friends. These leftist Democrats don't think very highly of you. In fact, they think you're all criminals and druggies.
The war on drugs was designed as a project to target our black and brown communities. And the obvious racial disparities in enforcement show us that it still is, at its core, an effort targeting communities of color through over-policing, criminalization, and mass incarceration.
And you heard it all here first, my friends. Rashida M.F. Tlaib, the Socialist Squad member, thinks that the war on drugs was set up to target people of color because every Democrat's going to tell you that only people of color partake in illicit drugs, right? That might be news to the Biden family, but I digress. That leads us to one of the most vacuous, uneducated, and racist members of the Democrat Party, Mad Maxine Waters. This story comes to us courtesy of the New York Post. That's the same paper that had their Hunter Biden laptop story censored by Twitter and the majority of the biased press. The Post says Mad Maxine didn't want this story to get out. You're going to understand why here in a minute. The incident went down on March 25th in South Los Angeles, where hundreds of people, misinformed people who suffer from Democrat policies, tried to obtain Section 8 housing vouchers because they're homeless. The would-be applicants crashed an event held by a nonprofit advocacy group called Fathers and Mothers Who Care, which had been meant to help the unhoused obtain emergency shelter. The confusion reportedly overwhelmed the nonprofit as well as Los Angeles Housing Services Authority workers who told the homeless folks there that the best that could be done was to put their information into a database. At one point, Waters, using her only remaining brain cell, told the crowd, quote, "I want everybody to go home," end quote. That led to a person shouting back at her, quote, "We don't got no home. That's why we're here." Another member of the crowd, smarter than Maxine Waters, said, "What home we gonna go to?" Waters reportedly responded by laughing and saying, quote, "Nothing is going to happen here today." After that, Waters appeared to grow frustrated by a question from a local housing advocacy group. Then this prime example of what it means to be a tolerant Democrat in modern-day America lost it and began yelling, "Excuse me, there's nobody in Washington who works for their people any effing harder than I do. I don't want to hear this. No, 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 no." So in case you're not keeping score at home, let's review, shall we? Democrats hate whites. They think people of color are druggies and lawless. They want to throw blacks off the Supreme Court. They destroy Latino communities along the border with their support of illegal immigration. And they don't have very high regard for the homeless either. Sounds to me like Democrats hate everybody. And so they do. Left-wing thought, whether it be collectivism, socialism, communism, whatever, it is cruel. It's violent. It's inhuman. And all it's good for is the spreading of misery and loss of life and freedom. And there's only one home of collectivist thought in the United States of America. They are the party that currently runs your government. Democrats are hate incarnate. Those homeless people out in LA, they're awakening to that fact. Let's pray the rest of America wakes up too.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Experts are warning the current 40-year inflation high will only get worse. See how to protect your IRA with gold. Get a free info kit like this one at birchgold.com/Newsmax. There's no cost. There's no obligation. Just get your free info kit at birchgold.com/Newsmax.